guys hear me? Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Welcome everyone, and hello to those of you watching via live stream. Navigating the Patent Process is another class in the library's Maker to Market series. I mentioned that already. And our speaker tonight, Meredith Lowry, is a registered patent attorney with the firm Wright Lindsay Jennings, and she's going to talk about the patent process. And we have had, like I said, a lot of questions about this, so I'm hopeful. Before you leave, if you would fill out that little program evaluation slip in front of you and then drop it in that box in the back, it's on your table, sorry, that back table, we would really appreciate it. We appreciate your feedback on all our programs. So it is getting late, so I'm going to turn it over to Meredith.
Okay, let's see. Is it working? Okay. So like Kelly said, I am a registered patent attorney. That means that I can practice in front of the Patent and Trademark Office to file patents for people. When it comes to the patent process, people can do it on their own, or you can hire an attorney, but they have to be a registered patent attorney to file on your behalf. I've been doing this almost 20 years. So yes, I've done this way too many times of talking about patents, mainly because a lot of people don't know what the process is like. There are no stupid questions when it comes to this. I don't expect anyone to understand that process. There are roughly 75 patent attorneys in the state. Of those 75, I would say maybe 8 are practicing on a regular basis, and maybe 4 of them are in Fayetteville. So you're not going to see many patent attorneys. Yeah, we don't talk about the patent process a lot. It is not something that you have to do. Patents are an exclusionary thing. They are used to keep people from making or selling or distributing or using something that you are claiming as your own. And it can also stop importation. It's something that's good for a business to consider. And there are a lot of reasons to consider it. We see a lot more in tech companies. We also see it in people that are creatives or that have a small business that are trying to corner that market for a time period to get that upper hand against their competitors. We have 3 types of patents. There are plant patents. I'm not going to expect any of y'all to be doing plant patents. The university is probably the only people group around here that really does any amount of plant patents, but I throw it out there because 1, it works with my Lego slides, which I use all the time, and also just in case anyone is actually doing anything with plants, that's something that's available. The 2 main things we think about when we think about patents are utility patents, which cover how something's functioning. And then we also have design patents, which is my area of specialty. I tend to work with people that are selling products. So when you think about phones and lovely Yeti cups, things that are sold on shelves, we see those well more in the product and design patent space than we do with some of the tech pieces. And we're going to talk about both, not plants. Okay, so design patents are issued for articles of manufacture. They are very specific in their article of manufacture. So if I have a patent that looks like that, and I say it's a toy building element, that's going to go through. If I say it's a drill, it will go through. Those 2 can exist in the patent world. If I say this is a drum, even though it's clearly not a drum, the patent office is going to say, yes, there are no drums that look like this. It's a fun little thing. I mean, we see a lot of design patents on things that look like guitar picks, but people call them knives. if it looks different and there's not anything else out there that looks like it and what you're calling it, the patent office is going to say yes. Design patents tend to go through. They have an issuance rate over 90%. The law did just change, so we're sort of like wondering what's going to happen there. But since the law changed in May, I haven't seen really any effects. Everything's still going through. Tires that look like old tires are still going through the process and getting issued. Design patents are good for 15 years. When you file them, they're fun. They penned for roughly 3 years now. They used to be the quick ones. Designs are different than utility patents in the sense that when you file it, at any point during that process of it being pending for that 3-year window, you can turn to the patent office and say, I need that. Here's a search. I did the search. These are the other things that are out there like it. I need that now. Here's extra money. And the patent office will examine it fast. This is why it takes so long now, because those people that are going through the process on a normal pace are getting leapfrogged all the time by the people that are like, I need that because there's an infringement. In some ways, this is great if you've got a product, because you can file it and then wait. And if someone's infringing you, you can jump the line. So it is good on that sense. But they're very narrow. If you're looking at certain things, and for some reason maybe you've lopped the top off of this toy building element, you might be able to get that through the patent process still, and also it might not be infringing. So we also look at partial designs. This is why I get giddy about design patents, because we can cut up the world in a lot of different ways. And we can focus on the part of a product that is important and new. So that base of the Lego block that we all know and love and have stepped on multiple times if you have young children like I do, that's not the part that's important. It's that flower piece. It's the same thing when we think about Apple iPhones. They have carved up that phone so many different ways and focused on small parts. Partial designs are key when it comes to design patents. Once you file designs, just like with a utility patent, that's when you're patent pending. So even if it's taken that 3 years, or with utility patents taking, well, maybe even longer, it's patent pending. That doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means. You can't sue while you're patent pending. You have this maybe quasi-expectation of someday getting something through the process, but you're not guaranteed patent rights. You just got something pending. I like to say it's sort of like saying you've got your kid brother down the street that will beat up the bully next to you, but your kid brother's down the street and the bully's about to punch you in the face. I mean, it's not the best protection. Utility patents are different from designs because they focus on function. They're going to be more the things like the process, the machine. They're still with articles of manufacture, but how that article is functioning. They're also with compositions of matter, and we see this like with viruses or vitamins, things like that. We have those compositions of matter. You can tell that those patents are different than design patents when you're searching, because they don't start with a D, with a number. They start with a large number. We're in the 12 million patent range. And so anything that's about 10 million up, those might still be enforced. Anything that's older probably won't be enforced. But when we're considering filing for a patent, all patent applications, even if they didn't get granted, are relevant to you getting a patent. All patents, design patents, utility patents, are looked at if they are new and if they're not obvious. So new, that's an easy one. Is there anything else like it? Is there another drum like this one? Or is there another process doing this thing like toy scanner? When it comes to not obvious, is a little bit harder to wrap your head around. The patent office is not supposed to use hindsight, but they do. When they've got your patent application up and they're looking at this toy scanner situation, and they know there's other scanners out in the world. How is this scanner different from the scanner, the flatbed thing that I used to use when I was in college? So they start looking at those differences. We're going to go through patent claims here in a little bit, but that's the big thing. They try and figure out, how can we make this slightly obvious? Would someone that wants to scan a toy make these same decisions and cobble together these old patents to then make your invention? So these things can come up during examination. There's other things that can come up when you file a patent. When the patent office looks at what you're doing, is this patentable subject matter? Scanners typically are. Toy products typically are. Things that a human can do without a computer, like counting how many people are in this room, those aren't patentable subjects. So they will differentiate there as well. That doesn't tend to come up for most people when they think, oh, I need to get a patent. They don't think, oh, this recipe is patentable. We put those things in other places. But that is something that will come up. I go fast. If y'all have questions, feel free to interrupt me. So the patent application process, there's a few things that you've got to have when we file. Filing fee is one. Utility patents, they can be filed provisionally and non-provisionally. And then design patents are just filed as designs. All different versions have different filing fees. A provisional filing tends to be what a lot of startups want to look at, because it allows you to go and market your invention without the expensive filing fee version. Most people can file for about $75, $65, around in there, for a provisional filing. A non-provisional filing, we tend to look at, I think it's about $680. Filing fees have been so across the board in 20 years. I've stopped memorizing, but it's about $680. Design patents tend to be around between $400 and $500 for those filing fees. You also need to have drawings almost all of the time. If you are doing a composition of matter, you might not have a drawing that looks like my lovely drum, but you may have a flowchart instead. Those still count as drawings, and if you're going to claim certain things, I would certainly consider having flowcharts, even if you don't think you need one. Written descriptions are what we think of a lot of times with the application itself, and that's just describing what your invention is. Everything except a provisional needs a claim. And again, we're going to look at claims in depth here in a little bit. You also need the oath or declaration. Patent Office uses those terms interchangeably. And it's essentially saying, under penalty of perjury, that this is your invention. This one is the one that is the easiest for you to do because the Patent Office provides that form for you to download and sign and submit with it, your application. The abstract also tends to go with the written description. We see them together a lot. And it's a short 150-word synopsis of what your invention is. If you don't have the abstract, or if the Patent Office thinks you don't have the abstract, like which just happened to one of my inventions, even though it was there, they will tell you you need an abstract and you need to submit it in. So those are the main things you need. Again, once it's filed, it's good for being considered patent pending. And the Patent Office really wants everything to be filed electronically. And we're going to go through how to submit here in a few minutes. These are out of order. I'm sorry. We already did that. Sorry. My Prezi was really weird for me yesterday, and it was supposed to download a different version, so we're going to jump around maybe. When it comes to pending situations, because it's that potential that someone may infringe you, or even before you file, you want to protect what you're doing, we highly recommend that you consider confidential disclosures and have some sort of contract with someone that you're going to disclose with. These are fairly easy to come by. ChatGPT actually writes a fairly decent confidentiality agreement for people. If you're going to consider using that form rather than having an attorney draft a confidentiality agreement, I would highly recommend that you ask ChatGPT to also provide for feedback disclosures. Because if you're telling someone your invention and they tell you, oh, this is really cool, this would make it even better, you don't want the situation where they also become an inventor to your invention. You want to own any feedback that that person might give you. And having that wrapped up into your confidentiality agreement is the way of going about that. Okay, so patent claims. Design patent claims are a little different. They focus a lot on patent drawings. And so you can see here, this gives a better picture of a patent drawing set. These are for a utility patent. The older style of patents tended to put a lot more on one page than we do now. So I would not encourage anyone filing new patent drawings to stick 6 figures onto one drawing sheet. But this is what Lego did. And so we see that the patent claims for design would be the design that's shown in the drawings. Utility patents have a different setup. We are focused more on function and this kind of more ephemeral concept of what is going on. So we have this long run-on sentence. This is one claim describing the toy building set, and you see some of the newer claims. I mean, this is an older patent. It was from 1961. So the claims were a little more readable then. Now we see worse ones. Patent attorneys like to be verbose. When it comes to That claim, though, it is this long run-on sentence that sort of agrees with itself, and you need to make sure you're pretty decent at grammar when you're filing these. But if you're going to prepare your own patent application, you're going to write your own claims, it's a good idea to go and do research on patents in a similar area. So we were talking about the library in Little Rock that has the ability to do some research. And I'll put links up on the screen here in a little bit. But there are two main places to look at other patent places, like where patents are, where you would see claims like this to then do your research. Patents, like Google Patents, it's a separate search engine than the normal Google search engine. And it provides most US patents that are granted or the ones that have been published. They're a little behind, maybe 3 to 4 weeks behind, but they are there. They also provide the European Union patents that have been published or issued. They have some Korean patents, some Chinese, most Chinese, I feel like, and some of the other countries. All of this is relevant because the Patent Office of the US is still going to look at those as well to see if you're new and not obvious. So having those available to you is important. Even if the patent didn't get issued, that's still relevant to you and if you're new and not obvious. The US Patent Office also has a search engine. It's the Patent Public Search Engine. You can find it, I usually just type Patent Public Search, but I'll have the link up here in a few minutes. And it's there as well. It's current. It will have all of today's patents that issued, because patents issue on Tuesdays. On Thursday, it will update again on the new ones that have been published. Not all applications publish. Designs don't at all. Some patents, you can also request that they not publish during the filing process. So some people keep things quiet. But for the most part, you're not going to have those work against you, the ones that you don't know about. But things like this are available for you through both of those search engines. Both use keyword searches. Google doesn't like me anymore. I looked for too many weird things in my job. So I've stopped relying on it as being a good source of truth. The Patent Public Search tends to do a better job of telling me what I want to see. And so I would work with both. Because you don't know. Y'all might look at all the very random things I look at too. But any questions about claims? Does this make sense to anybody? Seriously, y'all can ask questions while I take a drink. Pause my rambling.
So you can request that they not publish them. That's only in the pending period, I would assume, right?
What? Sorry.
If you request that they not publish them, would that just be like in the pending period? They wouldn't. I mean, they have to publish it once.
They have to publish it once it issues.
Okay.
Is there a fee for that?
For publication, there's a.
To have it not published?
Nope. I highly recommend.
Why would you not then?
Yeah, do they ever deny it?
If you're filing foreign, which most people don't, but if you want to file for a foreign patent, at that point you have to publish.
So foreign patent, meaning one granted by some non.
If you filed in the US and then decided to also file maybe China, that's where most of my clients want to file. Or they're already, Chinese nationals have to file in China first. And so we can't then say to the US, I can't publish here. So there's.
Do you mind restating questions for the stream?
Oh, Why would you not publish? So,
if you're an American citizen filing one and you do it in China first or after you do the American patent, then you can't?
you need to have it published. If you file in any country, or if you're filing in the US first, and then you decide, this is going gangbusters, I'm going to go file in the EU and China and Australia, at that point you can revoke the request to not publish. And it's a very easy process.
But you must revoke. You said
You
can't.
must
Okay.
revoke.
All right.
Yeah. If you don't revoke, then it gets to be slightly messy.
Yeah.
If you, while we're getting into the little
Yeah.
parts of patent law, if you also take government funding, and that relates somehow to your invention, you also have to tell that in the patent. But again, these are things that very rarely come up for most inventors. Most people do not file internationally.
What if you have some like federally subsidized loan or something? Like at what level does it start to count as being funded by the government?
If you've got a funding from the government with a contract, you will know
Okay.
that you need to have that notification. It's like DARPA level funding.
Okay.
I've got a question that goes back to something you said earlier.
Okay?
Maybe I'm jumping the gun.
No.
You talked about recipes,
Yes.
and I'm wondering what types of creative endeavors are not patentable? Like, I'm assuming you can't patent a recipe.
Sometimes you can.
Mm,
Not so much for cake.
yeah.
If it's a recipe for a vitamin, yeah. And we do see that. I've done recipes for paintball guns, or paintballs for paintball guns. So we do see those chemical related patents, but most of the time a recipe, like most people consider recipes, aren't really patentable.
Like,
Because it's something that's so known.
yeah.
But putting together a vitamin, we're adding in other components that maybe don't necessarily go together to normal people.
Like when it comes to drug patents and stuff, if it occurs in nature, is that an exclusionary?
If it occurs in nature, we cannot patent
What
it.
if they find out later? Because I know a lot of times they discovered something in nature that they didn't know relatively recently. I doubt maybe you guys have any facts. It's the kind of thing you see in journals published.
Sometimes, if something occurs in nature and it gets issued as a patent, then we see people attack the patent and say that it was never supposed to be, it was not patentable subject matter. So even once you get the patent, it's not like a done deal. And so we see a lot of designs get challenged because they're narrow in scope and someone's already been doing something like it. But
Also, it seems like the line between, especially with like pharmaceuticals, I know that some things they'll attach, like Vyvanse, for example, it's just, Adderall basically, it's just amphetamine, but they attached an amino acid molecule to it so that they made a hell of a lot of money off of it. But it's like, it's not, I don't know, where would the line be if it had been some other salt that it bound to? I don't know, like it.
drug patents are a very weird area of patent law.
It seems like they'll just give it to you for.
And they extend them oddly, and I do not touch these.
Okay. I know it's not a thing.
But
Are you gonna go over the difference between whether or not you need a patent, copyright, or a trademark?
I can.
Because I'm really gray on some of that.
Yeah, I thought about that
I
earlier.
pulled these up too. These are the links. So the top one is the patent office itself. The patent and trademark office go together. And then the second one is the Google search engine, and then the patent public search. One thing I did not say, but it needs to always be said, if you come up with an invention and you, for instance, if some of the cohort presented on Saturday at the Maker Faire, that is a public disclosure. When we have public disclosures, if it's online, in front of people, it starts getting kind of quasi things. If you like tell your neighbor next to you that's never going to say it. So we always err on the side of caution with public disclosures. But once that disclosure starts the clock, you have a year to file for the patent, or it works against you. You're no longer new because that year has passed. The patent office will check your social media. If you lie and tell your patent attorney that this is new, they'll find it even if your patent attorney didn't. True story. They check YouTube, they check everything. I feel like they don't have enough time on their hands even though they're behind. But that is something that's important. You need to file. Also, when it comes to those public disclosures, if you disclose your awesome new drum to a group of people and y'all think that drum would be cooler if it was just maybe green rather than blue, and you file it on your own for my awesome drum, that would work against me. I'm not going to get to file on my blue drum anymore because you filed my green drum. True story, design patents can be in color. That's the only time, really we get color. But, yeah. Those are things that you need to be aware of. That public disclosure is a big issue that tends to work against people more often than not.
So is that, like, if you're talking about an idea versus like showing it, where does that time
That's a
start?
fun one.
Like if I tell people like, hey, I'm creating something and I give them a generic description, but they still have like hey,
Maybe
not.
not.
Like if I said I'm making a cup, but I don't tell them what the cup is or what the design is, like is that still a disclosure?
Cup is a good example. I usually say, I'm going to have my flying car because I don't know how to make a flying car. Also, none of y'all can get a lot out of that other than I've got a car that's flying. How I'm propelling it, that's just not there. So it is an idea. Once we start getting more concrete that they can make it, that's a problem. So group text. Depends on how much you like those people and if they're going to rat you out. But, I mean, again, it's also how concrete was it? I got a flying car. That's not enough.
Can I get them to sign, can I insert the clause in the competition agreement?
I mean, confidentiality agreements can only go so far, and we're starting to see the patent office start saying, nope, that's still public disclosure. I would never bank on a confidentiality agreement and keeping you from being a public disclosure situation. So, okay.
Well, I was thinking more of the feedback, but yeah, I guess that would count under it. Yeah.
What?
I was thinking of the feedback clause under like a confidentiality, like they contributed.
I would still, anytime when we have a confidentiality agreement, that's a potential for considering that as a record that you disclose something. And you don't want that coming and working against you. So it's not always the patent office that is the issue. They're not going to see a confidentiality agreement. You, as an inventor, have a duty to disclose to the patent office what you know about. Half the time, you know about what you found in your patent search. Not so much what you may have forgotten that you disclosed about. So the issue is when it comes up when you're trying to enforce the patent. Because that patent is good, hopefully, for a while. We're going to talk about that in a second, how long it's good for. But when it comes to enforcing, you're going to be suing someone, and they're going to be fighting tooth and nail to tell you, no, I am not infringing that. Either your patent's invalid or I don't infringe. These are the two major disputes when it comes to a patent infringement case. And that not infringing piece sometimes weak. If you brought that lawsuit, they probably are infringing in some manner. So they're going to try and say, you screwed up that patent process somehow. You disclosed earlier. Show me all the contracts you had with anybody 2 years before. And you got to produce all of that in litigation. And so then they start asking the neighbor to the right of you, of like that you disclosed this to, and going, hi, what did he tell you? Oh, he told you everything? Okay, that's the problem.
What about if your neighbor thinks they contributed to the patent because of feedback or something, and then they want to get, I mean, then would they be invalidating your patent by trying to sue you and come after it? If they were coming after you for damages or part of whatever was made up?
It's not usually the neighbor that's the problem.
Yeah, okay.
It's that neighbor. It's somebody else.
Yeah.
It is completely somebody else. Every now, I do have one lawsuit with one of my patents. It's the person between the non-disclosure. That's the issue. And so sometimes it does come up.
Something was like, oh, you took my idea kind of thing.
Yeah, I told you about my idea, you took my idea, I've got this patent, and now you're infringing.
What if they don't even have a patent? They're just suing because they think they contributed to it. But it seems like they would have to almost invalidate the patent to prove their point.
If you don't have a patent and they're saying they contributed to it, then they have no case.
But if you do have one, you make money on it.
That, if there's someone that says they contributed to it, and they're trying to get a cut, it's because you're so wealthy at this point. Sometimes it's also still the neighbor that's infringing going to him saying he contributed. I'm going to buy his patent rights. That's why you get the feedback. You want to have that clause in your contract so he doesn't have any rights. I'm so picky on you. Your wife is the one that came for this conversation, and I picked on you. Sorry. Okay, patent terms. So once you've gone through all this, you've filed. We're going to go through filing in just a second. You have this patent. Design patents are easy. Once they get through examination, because most of the time that examination is very, very quick. Almost like, here's your notice of allowance after 3 years. They're not really negotiating with you very much at all. And you pay the fee, because there is a fee every time a patent is going to issue. It's around $400-ish. It's going to change by the time you get there in 3 years, no matter how you file. But it's around $400, $600, somewhere in there. You pay the issue fee for a design patent. It issues on a Tuesday. It's good for 15 years. You do nothing to keep it up. It's just there. It's golden. You don't have to do a damn thing. When it comes to utility patents, the provisional application is not going to issue. It's good for a year. After the time period of a year, if you haven't disclosed to anybody, you could refile again, another provisional. Your clock starts again on your new filing date, but that's fine. If you haven't disclosed, you're not really running the risk of somebody else having an issue with you and having that public disclosure concern. Non-provisionals do issue. They get examined. Provisionals can be changed into non-provisionals. They have a little bit more to them, more heft. Usually the application tends to be a little bit larger. Those, once they get to examination, it's a lot more give and take. Those claims tend to get revised multiple times. This is a more current one, you can see. It's a little bit more relevant to today. You can see it's also a lot harder to understand. The patent office is going to argue over those clauses a lot more. Once we get those claims where the patent office is happy with them, and we pay the issue fee, and it goes through and it's granted, it's good in theory for 20 years from the date you filed that non-provisional application. The patent office is going to ask you, and I say ask in the broadest concept possible because they don't actually come to you to get the money, but they want you to pay them a maintenance fee. There's 3 of them to keep it enforced. At any point in time, you can say, I'm done. I don't want to pay this. My blue drum is really not worth it to me. Y'all's green drum sold out better. But when it comes to that, those fees escalate. So if you pay the first fee at around, it's about 3.5 years after it issues, and then you pay it again at 7 and 11, each time it goes up. So I think the final fee tends to be around $2,000, $3,000. So you're paying all through the time to keep that patent going. So when you're doing searches and you're also going, my drum is cool, I don't care about getting a patent myself. I just want to know if I can sell it. Sometimes knowing that patents expire and they're not good for 20 years is very relevant. I do a lot more research on, can I do this than can I patent this? Okay, real quick, before I show filing, because filing can be a little messy and we're going to get more questions on that. The difference between patents, trademarks, and copyrights. It's blurry. There's like this weird fun Venn diagram going. Okay, patents tend to be for functional things. Even when we're looking at a design patent, it's something that can be functional in its own way. We do see designs blur into areas that can be protected by copyright, though, like fabric designs. Mainly because of how we enforce things. Patents are, if you're infringing it, you're infringing it. There's no real dispute there other than is the patent valid or not. So if your fabric is protected, and for your purse is protected by a design patent, it doesn't matter if I saw your purse fabric at all. If I make it independently on my own, I'm still guilty of a patent infringement there. It's this very strict liability situation. Copyright protects artistic designs for things. It never touches anything functional. If it's going to be functional, the Copyright Office says no, unless you can separate the functionality away from it. So, your purse is never going to be protected by copyright. My dress is not protectable. And so we start seeing this really weird area of the law where things that we want to protect can't really be protected except for in the patent realm. Also, copyright requires some amount of knowledge of the copyrighted design to be infringed. It's protecting the artistic expression. So if I don't see your purse fabric and create it on my own, I'm not copying the artistic expression of that purse fabric. I'm making it on my own. And that's completely allowable in the world of copyright.
Like with music, I know there's that George Harrison case with this song from something, and it said that the chorus had the same melody, but I think he actually lost the case. I mean, this was like 1970 or something.
Copyright in music gets really difficult. So when it comes to the argument of I didn't hear it, I didn't have access, that's the copyright term. I didn't have access to this, so therefore I'm not infringing. it gets a lot messier to show that. We have these
Could've heard
things.
it when you're somewhere, or
You just hear it. You don't know that you might have actually had access. And then it gets to the point of kind of insanity of arguing about it. And you just deal with it and move on. The bigger case, I mean, like, that blurred lines, no, I'm going to mess up. Do not know music.
Robin Thicke and Farrell.
Yes, thank you.
And Mark Thicke.
I mean, that's a thing. Like, you hear the song, you don't know that that's your inspiration, and then you spend all this money. I mean, that's what you're arguing over. I heard it, I didn't hear it.
I remember Nirvana started out a concert once playing the More Than a Feeling.
Yeah.
And they transitioned it into Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's kind of similar. It's just,
Yeah.
I think like one note's different, maybe minor, but it was.
Music gets really messy quickly. Copyright does get applied to odd things. Jewelry apparently isn't functional. Lamp bases, if it's not the lamp part, not the actual light, not functional. Toys, not functional. This is why I use Lego, because they are everywhere. Like, I can go and pull the copyright records for Lego stuff and see, okay, they're getting the design patents through, they're getting the copyrights through. The Copyright Office is separated from the Patent and Trademark Office. It is copyright.gov, if anyone cares. Their search engine is abysmal. You will not see pretty pictures like this. You will see records without pictures altogether. Their filing fees, a lot of people think that they're cheap because their protection is cheap. They're about the same as provisional applications, oddly. So it's not like you're getting a great deal. I mean, you're paying for, the big thing with copyrights is they last for damn near forever. So maybe 75 to 120 years. Pretty decent deal of when you're paying $65 for them. Trademarks are the anomaly. Here, they are truly not something you create. They are something you force someone else to believe. They are brand recognition of what maybe you're going to get if you pick up something, if you buy something. That smell of Play-Doh. True story, it's actually trademarked. I mean, it's those recognizable things, those brand awarenesses that have been placed in your head by marketers. You can make trademarks through a lot of things. Lego has their minifigures protected, like the actual shape of them are protected because of their brand push. The trademark office goes with the patent office. The filing system they're almost right next to each other. We'll go ahead and go over to that site. I really hope it's not going to make me log in. Okay, so when you file, the Patent and Trademark Office, I'm not going to scroll down because you will be able to see things that you're not supposed to see, but when you authenticate to file with the Patent and Trademark Office, there's trademarks filing right there, and the patent filing right there. So they go together. The patent or the trademark filing fees, they're going to go up because they're beleaguered right now. Since the pandemic, they have skyrocketed. And there are a number of patents and trademark applications. Trademarks are worse. We used to see examination with trademarks within 6 months to 8 months. It is now 10 months to 12 months for examination, which is not the best when you're wanting to launch a product and you're waiting to get approval from the trademark office. But that filing fee is right now $250 if you file online. And they really, 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 really want you to file online because they jack up the prices on everything if you don't file online. Trademarks are different, again, than patents and copyrights. Like copyrights, they're not examining really, except for the fact that you're filling out the paperwork correctly. The trademark office is going to look to see, is there another trademark out there like yours on the trademark registry? They're not going to go to search Google to find things. So they're just more focused on, is someone going to get confused here? Is that are you trying to get Ketty through for my lovely blue drum? Okay, questions on copyrights and trademarks before I show you how to file a patent? Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Like you have a mug. First, somebody made the thermal mug and they started selling it. And now there's so many companies doing it. So how didn't they all have telephone patent or?
The question is, how can other people have thermal mugs like this one? Yeti files a lot of patents. I am kind of surprised that they aren't trying to stop more people. I check design patents every Tuesday. I am obsessed with my area of the law. And every Tuesday, they at least have one. Some of the times it's on a cooler. Sometimes it's on like one of those portable like bag things. I think they're getting into backpacks too. But they file a lot. So there's got to be some distinction there on why they're allowing some of those other people out there. But I haven't looked at what they're doing in the litigation area. Okay, so when it comes to filing, it is important to know what you're filing. Because if you try to file something and it's not what you're actually giving the patent office, that's going to be a problem. They're going to probably yell at you. We're going to look at provisionals. And we're not going to go through the entire process, but we will go through a lot of it because after a while they start yelling at me on certain things. So the first thing when you file a provisional application, they're going to want to know certain information. The application data sheet tells them things about the application, like your name, your address. So you can upload a sheet that they will give you. You can fill it all out, make it a PDF, and upload that. The main reason I would encourage you to do this version is because if you're filing a provisional and you do decide to file a non-provisional in the future, you can tell it your information about your provisional application, and it's going to auto-populate all of this for you. It just makes your life easier. And if that application continues to go through the process, it can be beneficial.
So provisionals when they get patent pending?
All of them would be patent pending. The provisional is the form where you're not going to get examined, and that's good for a year.
So that's if you didn't disclose?
It's even if you don't disclose or disclose, it's still going to be good for a year.
Okay.
So this is fairly, it makes, I mean, how many of y'all have filed before? No one's filed before. Okay. How many of y'all actually want to look at this, or do you have other questions?
Well, is it just filling the forms out and stuff?
It's pretty much filling out forms.
I mean, unless there's anything really weird, I think we probably.
The only thing that I would say is sometimes these things don't make sense. So, like filing by reference, I would say you're never ever going to click those boxes. Unless you're filing with an attorney, you're not going to have a customer number. You're going to have information about an invention and making sure all of this is right. But again, it's pretty, oh, they're not going to let me go on. Yeah, that's the problem.
What does filing by reference mean? Reference to something? What?
It means that there's some other application out there that you're referring back to. So, I mean, I can say it does make sense. The library had asked that I kind of go through some amount of filing disclosure information, but when it comes to these, I mean, it's something you probably could do on your own. The only real time it becomes an issue, and I can't.
Like, what are the common places that people might mess up if they're not an attorney or something?
Yeah, that's what I was trying. I was wishing I could get to it easily. The only time I would say that you're going to miss something is in this authorization to permit access. It's going to have this box of do you want to publish or request not to publish. And that's where if you don't want to publish that application, you want to keep it confidential until it issues, you click that box. And some people miss clicking that box. And the other place is actually signing it, which seems ridiculous, but I've seen so many people not sign their ADS. And so you sign that.
Do like the touch thing?
You
Can you do a
backslash Meredith Lowry backslash or your name.
Oh.
So it's really easy. I mean, you don't have to, yeah, you just type your name with the backslashes.
So, because anyone can type it, it's not like it's a unique, it's not like your actual signature where it's kind of unique.
Nope.
Theoretically.
Nope, it's just putting backslashes in front of it. And then after that, it's drag and drop the application. You drag the written description, you drag the drawings, and you put them in there, and it recognizes, it's not so much with drawings, unless you title it drawings, it's going to recognize them then. If you've signed the declaration, which you have to sign, that is actual ink on paper, but yeah, you just make sure you have all the parts and pay the fee. The weird other place that can be a problem with the fee is, let me see if I can show you this. So you drag, drop for the file, the documents. After you've submitted, it's not going to let me go. Once you hit submit, it shows you the bottom of the screen. You have to scroll up to pay. And that's a weird thing. If you don't pay and you just move on, they'll come back and they'll say, you missed the filing fee. Here's the surcharge fee because you didn't pay me too. So, and the surcharge fee is like $60. So
how do you know if you can do it on your own versus are you going to need to hire an attorney? Like where?
the patent office is going to try and tell you two different competing things. Sometimes the examiners will say you need an attorney because they have problems negotiating with someone that may not understand like what they're trying to get at. And I've seen a lot of people they argue over things that don't matter to the patent office. So that they'll want you to have an attorney. The patent office is trying really hard to have people do this on their own. There is a pro bono project out of St. Louis where they've got law students that will work with you. Just about anybody in Arkansas can qualify for the pro bono project because it's based on, like, there's the concept of how much money you're making, and it gets inflated because of Arkansas. So basically anyone making less than $75,000, I think, can probably qualify for it. It is almost self-help. They're not going to help you with a non-disclosure agreement. They're not going to help you with any sort of supply agreements, contracts, things like that. So having an attorney that's working with your patent is almost better in some ways too. The patent office puts on webinars for people to try and help them learn how to file. They usually call it how to file your own DocX application, because that's how you've got to file it in Word format. You've got to file it as a DocX. They are somewhat informative, but I would say most patent attorneys will talk to you for free, especially if you're on the phone and it's 30 minutes. They'll be able to tell you, oh, you could probably do this on your own. Or, oh, you may not be able to get a patent on that. Or, yeah.
What about software?
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's patentable and sometimes it's not. It depends on if it's making the computer do something more than what a human can do. Again, if it's like the computer, like those cameras, being able to look and see how many people are in the room and identifying people and counting them, I mean, I can do that. That may not be protectable.
So how is AI protectable then? I mean, I think a lot of it wouldn't be, but maybe some.
It's a fun one. It's a lot more processing. And a lot of times with AI and being like, is AI protectable in this aspect? I mean, it's, again, the camera recognizing that y'all are humans because of maybe recognizing there's a heat signature, or you're moving, or you got a hat on, things like that.
Maybe have a neural net, maybe they patent their particular neural net structure or something like that.
Not usually protecting the neural net structure. Sometimes, I mean, granted, that's not my area. I'm more looking at what the AI is processing. So what is that camera doing? How's it identifying you as a human versus not a human or a deer?
So if your provisional patent is expiring,
Yeah.
and you haven't put out your item yet, can you refile for another provisional?
You could. You're going to start your time running again. You're lying. So the reason we file that provisional, in some ways, is to mark your line in the sand. As of September 3rd, 2024, this is mine. If you go to September 2nd of 2025 and you haven't disclosed and you're like, this is the coolest thing ever and no one knows how to do a flying car yet, I'm going to bet that I don't need a file now. I can file again here in a couple days and still work on my flying car. Then you're golden. But that's a bet. You don't know what's been filed. And we are a first to file system. So it's risky. But I've seen people make that gamble and it works sometimes.
So you just have to go look to see if someone else has already filed?
You're not going to know half the time because provisionals aren't published. Non-provisionals, if they are published, I wouldn't say all of them are published.
So what's the difference between non-provisional and provisional? I missed that, I guess.
The provisional filing is good for a year. The non-provisional is the one that gets examined.
Okay.
So then you move after that year to a non-provisional? Is that how
It,
that works?
yes,
If you want to.
if you want to.
But you could, does that mean that after that year, you could go, keep going over and over again?
As long as you're not disclosing, you can keep filing provisionally.
Okay. And then, so what's the point of going for non-provisional then versus one?
Your provisional application will never be examined. It will never issue as a
You won't
patent.
get a patent.
Yeah,
So then,
but your patent pending,
but you're not protected at all.
correct.
So,
Some people, all they want is patent pending
and
status.
that's enough to scare people away from ever doing anything with it?
Sometimes.
Doesn't hurt.
Because if it does make money, then you can transfer to non-provisional, and then you would be protected.
If you've not disclosed and then you suddenly do, so say you file and for your filing car tomorrow, and then you disclose in 8 months, I would keep that filing, because otherwise you're going to have a problem. And then when you file your non-provisional, it dates back. That's just like when you file the ADS, again, and you reference back, it's going to loop it in and say, you are claiming from this one.
And you can't claim that that was me earlier, that did that same, that I was the one that made that original item, and then if the patent office comes back and says that it's not original, but you couldn't come back and say that was me that made that unoriginal item? Would that work or not?
Okay, say you file tomorrow,
Right.
8 months, you've got your disclosure, and then you file your non-provisional, and then the patent office is examining it, going, oh no, you disclosed, or not necessarily you disclosed, there's a disclosure here.
Right.
That's a problem, you're not new.
Okay.
Yes, you can say, that was me, and you swear an oath, and the patent office is like, cool. But if it's back here, before September tomorrow, that's a problem.
So
The
it's-
patent office is going to go, that disclosure is more than 1 year. You didn't have anything pending. That's a problem. You're not new. Yeah.
So the point of the provisional patent is to protect you whenever you do decide to get your patent if you had a disclosure during that pending process.
It's a good thing for like marketing
Yeah.
and like trying to workshop, how do I make my car fly?
So it would make sense maybe then if you have like a simpler, like my product is fairly basic, it's fairly simple. I don't think it'll be too complicated to write out the patent. So maybe I do a provisional on my own just to kind of just to cover myself and like you said, kind of draw that line in the sand.
Yes.
Put it out there, see if it's gonna do well, sell, and if it does, then maybe I go, oh, I should call Meredith and have her be my attorney to do a non-provisional.
Yes, that is a very viable way of going about it.
Okay.
Also do the research and look at other patents for similar things. You don't have
They're
to.
hard to find. I've tried. I'll have to check out the Google search. And see
If you
there's any
aren't
other-
finding anything like,
Found one similar.
okay, go to Google, find that one. They're going to reference other patents in them. So, let me show you.
So if you have an actual functional item and it has a trademark on it, does that just mean that they're trademarking their brand, not that actual functioning thing? Like if this
That
cup
it's
has a
specific
trademark
for
on it,
goods.
it would be for the brand, not for the cup?
It's for the cup.
The
It's for,
trademark.
the trademark, we divide the world into 45 different classes. So yeah, it's for cups. Okay, so say we're looking, purse brings up wearable financial indicator. You can tell my search it. But so Google Patents is going to have the claims, the write-up. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom because that's where I want to show you.
Wow.
Financial patents are so long. And it's got all these patent citations to them. And so you can click on those and see other things related, or that the patent, see, these are starred. Those are what the patent office cited. And then there's the ones that aren't starred that the person disclosed to the patent office as well. And so you can search it that way. I would say if you can't find anything when you're searching, you're not using the right keywords. There's something out there. And I would look at it, find a different keyword. When it comes to figuring out, like writing your own provisional, you don't have to write them like this. I mean, again, I told you, patent attorneys do not write the way normal people do. And so, like, I mean, electronic device displays. That means this. I mean, it's just stupid wording. But I would look and see how they write to a certain extent, because if they've got 30 pages about a purse, maybe you need 30 pages about a purse. And sometimes you don't have to necessarily describe everything. I mean, when we're talking about a financial display, that's described someplace else, and you can, by reference, have that, just say, okay, I don't need to talk about a computer. All of these patents talk about computers. I'm incorporating them.
So if somebody created Igloo cooler, so they patent the cooler, so then the trademark for Igloo, does that have to be separately?
Yes.
Oh, you have to do so.
Yes, the patent office will handle protecting the cooler itself, and then the trademark side will deal with the brand and like examining that part. The patent office gets mad at you if you refer to things with trademarks in the title or in the claims. You can sort of talk about them in the disclosure, but don't use Velcro. Like, that's a good way to get a rejection. They'll say use hook and loop.
Is a slogan a trademark?
It can be.
Like,
Depends on how they use it.
And everybody thinks,
Just do it. I mean, like, that's a,
yeah.
like, we can, it depends on how it's used, though. I mean, there are some slogans that people are like, that's mine. I get to be the one that says, Fayetteville is my favorite ville. No, not unless you actually used it in a trademark way. So, yeah.
So
So
what
that's
are,
not, sorry.
no, you can go.
So just do it, that's not a copyright, but it's a trademark?
What?
Say just
Just
do
do
it?
it.
Just do it would be a trademark.
Oh, so it's a trademark, not copyright.
Right.
It's not hard.
Copyright will not protect brands. It will not cover trademarks.
So like if Nike is a trademark, the slogan is a trademark, a model maybe, oh shoot, I don't know, the Nike Air Max or something, the Air Max is a trademark too, then, its own trademark?
The words and the shoe. They've gotten their shoes trademarked.
Okay.
And they file them for design patents all the time.
I can see the design and maybe utility, but so they trademark even like just the shoes, not the name, beyond the name, but even like the appearance of the shoes, like a
Yep.
trademark and not a design.
They will. They dissect just like Apple. They'll focus on where the eyelets go.
That's exciting.
So you mentioned like 45 different categories of what a trademark can be used for or whatever. So if I trademark a logo, do I have to pay a separate fee for every category that I want to use it on? So like if I want to do sweatshirts and mugs and whatever.
It depends on if they are in the same class. So half of those, well, no. About 30 of them are goods. The rest are services. If you are doing clothing, clothing's all together. So that makes it easy. If you're filing for mugs, a lot of household goods tend to be together. It gets a little bit wonky when we start looking at toys. Go with hunting and sporting goods and Christmas. But yeah, printed stuff all goes together. The trademark office has a search engine. You can tell I do this too much, that I keep all the slides together. Let me get to, that's not what I wanted. It's not there. There is a search engine. It's the trademark identification manual, and you can type in there what you're doing. Again, gotta use kind of loose keywords there, because sometimes things don't pop the way you think they're going to. Things cross over different categories. So software. Both of y'all seem to be interested in that to a certain extent. When it comes to that, if it's a downloadable software product, that's in class 9. If it's non-downloadable and it's a platform, that's in class 42. And understanding your product and talking to your attorney on what kind of product you have is important.
Is one considered a good? I mean, you said 30 are goods, and I guess the other 50.
42 is a service. So if it's not downloadable, it's the service of providing that software to the people to use.
But the app would be.
That's a good, because it's downloadable.
To some extent, you're downloading information when you're on a website.
Yes. We see software get put in both places a lot, but the trademark office that's a big problem. Like the patent office, you can pay most things your way out of. Don't miss the issue fee. That one's the one that you can't pay your way out of. The trademark office doesn't care. If you file in class 9 and you really should be in class 42, the trademark office will say, I'm so sorry, that's so sad. File again.
So you just
Start your clock again.
Just give me some more money and we'll get the rate.
Give me more money and you get to wait again.
So basically, is there like a good place to look through the classes and just so you can
Yes,
be familiar with
the
like,
trademark identification manual. Let me, that one,
I think the library has a book that has a bunch of,
they change it so often.
but yeah, I couldn't say for sure, and it would be instantly, I mean, it would be instantly outdated. We do have some patent books that I brought down.
Oh,
They're all the NOLO series.
oh, there. It's the third one on the list. And if you if you can't find something, so say you've got something super specific, like one of my clients, they were doing waders for duck hunting, not waders for fishing, not waders for just like wading. They wanted waders for duck hunting. That's not a thing, or it may be, it is now because I asked for them to. There's a way at the trademark office for you to email them and say, this is not in the identification manual, and this is specific to me, I need you to add it. And they consider it within usually 24 hours. And then if they agree with you, they'll add it within a week. So sometimes you just wait, and then you file that way. You can also file electronically for a trademark based on whatever you want to describe your thing as. I don't recommend that. The guard posts of the identification manual usually mean that you're going to file it the way that's going to help you get it examined properly. We see a lot of people that file trademarks on their own that say, we will be using this for a whole range of things. That is the fastest way to get rejected, because once you file, you can't change that. You can narrow it, but things isn't something you can really narrow. So they might have pity on you, but they don't have to.
Can you
So-
file for more later?
Yeah.
Okay.
You start the process over again. Though I have seen sometimes, like I'll file one a few months later because the client said, okay, we've got more goods now, we want to file for this one. Sometimes the trademark office will examine them together.
If you trademark something for, say, like, I don't know, a show or like a game or something, and then you decide later, like a year later or something, you want to trademark it for clothing, for like a separate thing, can someone else trademark that if it's your thing?
Yes. So we examine based on what you filed it for. And so if you file for a game in class 28, you're going to, like board game, that's going to be examined there. But games and clothing don't necessarily go together. So the trademark office isn't going to even think about that. If someone files it in clothing, clothing holds so many variations of trademarks too. That tends to be the most cluttered class. They're not going to consider it. If you are filing for clothing and then decided to do jewelry, the trademark office sees those as more related because we see those get sold by the same person more often. That tends to be the test. Do you know multiple people selling the same goods as what you might branch out into?
So if I want to sell something with a trademark in a mug, and a shirt, and a backpack, is it all in different class? Do I have to file separately, or you just file one thing and this is what it's going to be used for?
So you can file them all together in one application, but you might have multiple classes. So clothing is going to be one thing, bags are another, that board game's another. But I don't recommend you file multiple classes together as one application because sometimes they don't go well. So say you're going to get blocked in clothing because clothing's so popular and there's other trademarks out there, the other two are going to get blocked too. And why would you stop those? And then you could potentially tell the trademark office, let's move those other ones forward so I could get the trademark, but you're going to have to split them and pay money. So it's just better if you're filing them separately to begin with, because you're going to be paying the extra cost anyway.
I guess because if you're thinking about saving the money, but actually it'll create headaches and
Yeah,
like that.
it creates a
So
lot of headaches.
So if you want to do shoes and clothes, just do it all separately.
Shoes and clothing go
Clothes
together,
maybe.
though.
Yeah, maybe that's okay, but if it's going to be like
But a mug
dish,
would,
Mug with,
mug, and separately.
But okay, well, thank y'all. If y'all have questions, I don't think my
you know,
emails.
Gore-Tex, like for example, these shoes I have, brands like Saliva or Saliva, probably when it's in North Tyrol, Italy, Northern Italy really speak German, so I'm not even really sure if they're how to say it, because the W might be, anyway, whatever. But they have Gore-Tex, like Gore-Tex material, they're on a lot of shoes that of different brands. So I guess they got a utility patent probably for that, all the, and not just for one thing, but for, and of course they probably have a trademark on the Gore-Tex name too. But like for the different textiles they make that then they license to the shoe companies.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the shoe material can be protected by utility or design and then the trademark. And we,
I wonder if that would be utility or design or both. I mean, does it have to be one or the other? You always-
nope, it can be both.
Okay.
We usually see both.
Yeah, that makes
Because designs used to go through so quickly, and now we still see. I mean, that ugly little toy scanner was probably a design patent too. Yeah.
So you said you can file patents internationally in a separate process, right?
You still can file them at the U.S. Patent Office. You just say that it's an international application.
Cost more?
It does cost a ton more,
Yeah.
and that's like one that I can't even ballpark because it's by the page.
Yeah. Is that, can you also do copyright and trademark internationally, or are those?
Yes. The trademarks, you would want to actually be, same with patent, you really want to be international to justify the expense. The trademark, you have to be international because you've got to show use at some point. The copyright you can file, and you know, we have treaties for all of this. So. Kelly, I think we're at time, aren't we?
Sure. What is it 7:30?
It's 7:30.
I mean, technically, yeah, that's what I put on.
I don't want to keep you late because I know you've got the kids at home, but
Well, I got here till 8. We
Oh,
don't
okay.
get till 8, so.
okay. I can do maybe one more question before my throat gives out. If y'all have questions, you can email me.
You have a card or anything?
Yes.
I have cards, I think.
I would like one, please.
You would think I would have cards.
And we recorded this, so it'll be on the library's YouTube.
Did y'all record the small business?
I have 3.
taxes one?
Most of them. Like we did we did the taxes one, and we're doing the
Thank you.
funding one in October.
I think I have 3.
Yeah.
So,
I can take a picture or something.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the slide with all the Birkin bags up there. I mean, I've seen a million bags at Walmart that look like the Birkin bags. So are they trademarking the name along with the style, or?
I don't know if I've ever seen a design patent for
Is
it.
it Hermes? I mean, it's Hermes.
That one, it's from the Meta Birkin dispute. So someone started selling NFTs that look like Birkins and called them Meta Birkin. And so then, Hermes sued
Yeah.
because it's using the trademark, and the argument was it's not trademark infringement because no one's going to be confused. No one thinks that
Right.
I'm Hermes,
Obviously, it's not a handbag.
and no one, it's not a handbag. Trademarks were really supposed to prevent that consumer confusion. We've seen this very weird situation start occurring in the last 20 years. And it's, I think, at the peak now, where it's no longer just, is someone going to get confused, but is there some trading off of something that is Hermes or Jack Daniels? And that was the big case. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, are you trading off of it to then sell a product?
And who's, like, for example, with something like knockoff bags or knockoff anything, where it's, as the person who, say if you're a buyer for Walmart and somehow you got conned by whoever and you thought that it was, somewhere in the line, you end up with a fake product that you sell, are you then responsible for having sold?
Yeah.
Even though you did, if it wasn't knowingly, and then, like, how does it,
So the Walmarts of the world are going to tell the vendor that they've got to defend them. So they usually get off the hook really quickly. But,
If they wanna be a vendor, they're gonna have to be the ones responsible for that.
So
but
it's
yeah,
the-
if you,
Chain of custody probably is instituted or something.
I mean, that comes up sometimes. But then, yeah, for the most part, it is this issue of the vendor, the retailer is liable. So we've seen big, huge cases where Walmart's still on the case, even though they're really not there, and their vendors dispute.
So if the designer and the seller are different, and a patent comes back, and then the designer no longer they no longer own the design, if that comes back, does it go back to the people who made it, or is it to the people who now own the design and they are selling it?
So,
Like if you tried to make a new version of a Yeti,
yeah,
and you were designing it for someone else, and then you gave that, you said, I no longer have this is yours. And the new person that owns the product starts selling it. Does it come back to the person who made it, that new version, or the person who currently holds it and is selling it?
the liability could go back to the person that designed it. So almost all my contracts with designers say that the designer is liable and that they're saying that it's their design. But designers aren't usually the ones that have all the money. They usually sue the person selling it, and everybody's liable.
But you go after, deep pockets.
Yep, you go after the deep pockets. They're the ones with the insurance. And you're really just wanting the insurance. Well, hopefully I helped with the process a little bit. It's,
What about arbitration? Do you go to does that go to court, or does it start with the patent office or something?
arbitration is a whole different can of worms. The patent office doesn't do arbitration.
Okay.
They're you're dealing with them.
Is there a separate circuit that's devoted to stuff like
There are two main arbiters, and the reason it's painful is because they charge you for the pleasure of doing business with them. In some ways, it's easier and better for people. Businesses like it because you don't see class actions through arbitration, because it can't exist. And if you're selling coffee that's 1,000 degrees and you don't want people to sue you for a class action of thousands of people getting burned, then yeah, arbitration's nice. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.